Morning, everybody. We're going to start the webinar shortly. We're just waiting for more people to arrive. We're up to about 35 people now, so we'll just wait. We'll just wait for a few more moments, and then we'll start the session. Just got a couple of topics to go through, and obviously give everybody an opportunity to ask questions. One of the things we'll say as we go on. Oh, could you put yourself on mute, Hilary? Yeah, one of these things as we go through the agenda in a moment, and it's a very short agenda, I'll just sort of mention the fact if anybody wants to ask questions as we go along, if you use the chat facility to ask your question, we'll look to get a response to you straight away. But what we'll also do is collate all of the questions that have been asked and the answers, and we'll circulate those questions and answers to everybody on the session as well. So please do make use of the chat facility and ask any questions you've got, whether it's about particular topics we're going to cover, but if you've got more general sort of questions, then please ask those as well, and we'll endeavour to answer those directly straight away. But if not, we'll come back to you with a response later today. We'll just wait until 5 past and then we'll crack on, I think. So yeah, these are the topics, as you know, is part of the invitation. The areas Hilary is going to cover is trips and visits within WisePay and the communications hub as well. And as I say, you've got the opportunity to ask any questions as well. Perhaps just a few introductions. My name's Tim Smith. Perhaps if you just want to go to the next slide, Hilary, you've got some contact details there. I've just taken over the sort of commercial responsibility for WisePay, certainly from an account management point of view as well. Again, we'll circulate all of this information to everybody on the call, but that's my contact details if you need to speak to anybody from an account point of view, or if you're looking to add extra modules onto your system, etc. Hilary, as I'm sure you'll all know, we've spoken to many times before. Hilary's our support lead, and she's going to be taking you through the topics this morning. And again, I'm sure you're very familiar, but the contact details to gain support is either through website, either through the email address or the telephone number. So please continue to make use of that. And on that, I'll hand it over to Hilary, and we'll start the webinar. But as I say, if you've got any questions, please do raise them in the chat box, and we'll answer them straight away for you. Okay, over to you, Hilary.
Thank you, Tim. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the webinar today. I'm just going to take us into my test site so that we can start to show you how to set up trips and visits. We're using the test site here, so any data in here is completely fictional, so that there's no proper names or anything of any children that you're going to see today. So before you set up a trip, there are a number of things that you should be thinking about, such as, are there a limited number of places available? Can it be paid in one transaction or by instalments? And if there's any additional information that you might need from parents, such as consent for something, or if you're asking for some extra information, if there's, say, an item of clothing attached to the trip that the children can order, so you might want to look at sizing and colours and that sort of thing. If the trip's payable in instalments, it's always a good idea to set it up as a fixed with instalment product. If you set it up as variable and you have a limited number of places available on the actual trip, every time a parent goes in to make an instalment on the variable product, the system will think that it's another person that's going to go onto the trip. So if you've only got a limited number of places, every time a payment is made, the system will think that another place has been taken. So this is why we set them up as fixed with instalments, and that way, once the initial payment is made, that's when the system recognises it being a place booked, and any further instalments that are made after that will just be associated to the initial booking. So you can always keep the number of places correct when you're going forward. So when we look at the trip, we click into your trip and visit module, and we're going to add a new item. The top part here is the most important part, because this is what drives everything. So this is where you've got your title for your trip, the number of places that you have available, the bank account that the money is going to be paid into, and your expiry date. So if we set up a trip, we'll just call it WisePay. Right, and I'm going to have 5 places available. The system will always default to 5, so you'll need to make that to as many places you have available. If it's an unlimited number of places, you can set it to 5 9s, and then that will just be an infinitive number of places that you have available. You can change the bank account that it goes into by clicking on that, and then you've got your expiry date. I'm going to set this to the 26th of February this year. But what you have to remember is that parents will only be able to book on this trip up to 11:59 p.m. on the 25th of February. So parents going in on the 26th, it'll say this item is no longer available to purchase. So we then click on continue. And in this area here, you'd write all the information that you have about the trip, any details that you need parents to know, timings, what they're going to get on the trip, what they're going to see, etc. If you have some extra information that you want to give to the parents, you can also create a document and you can attach it to the file here, so that when parents go in, they will see an available document to download, and that could have extra information on. If you want written consent from the parents, you can attach it to that. I will be talking about another module that we do offer that will help you with this later on in the presentation towards the end. It's called Forms Manager, and it's a completely separate module. But for the moment, if you just wanted to add an extra letter, you can add it in here by attaching it. You can add a screen image for the trip that you want to set up. You can, if you've got one already on file, you can add it. The screen image does have to be a certain size. So if you're trying to add something that's too big or too small, and you click on yes to add it, you'll get the generic WisePay is fully operational error message. If you get that, if you can send the screen image in to us as a JPEG, we can resize it for you and we can set it to the system. So you can also have a home highlight page. You can set this to yes. This just means that instead of the parents having to log in and look for the trip within the trips and visits module, they can actually go into the system, and when they log in like that, this is the login screen that they'll see, but they will see the home highlight bits at the bottom here. If you're just trying to make it a little bit more powerful and have an impact, you can put it on here and the parents will be able to see it. So you would set that by just clicking yes onto that. So then you click continue again, and this is where you get down into the payment options. So we're going to set this up as a fixed with instalments payment. So we're going to leave it as fixed and press continue. If you set something up as variable and you want to change it to fixed, you can't do it. You'd have to start again, and the same the other way around. If you set it to variable but you think it should be fixed, then again you'd have to start again. And if you've got payments that have already been made, then we would have to transfer the payments over to the new trip once you set it up. So we're going to say yes, the payment can be made in instalments. So we're going to click yes and continue. One thing we do recommend is when you're setting up a payment with instalments, when you get this deposit box here, we recommend that you actually leave that blank. You can put your total price in here, which includes your deposit. So if I'm going to have £100 for this trip, and I'm going to have it payable in 4 instalments, but with a deposit payment as well. So I'm going to have 5 instalments. I'm not doing recurring payments, that's something completely different. I'm going to press continue. What the system will do is it will work out, bearing in mind the cost is £100 and you're having 5 instalments, it will make out that you've got 5 instalments for £20. You can change this, you can have it whatever you want. If you want the instalments to get cheaper or more expensive, you can do that. So if we want to have a deposit for this trip, I'm going to make the deposit the first instalment. So I click on edit and I'm going to put the deposit details in here, and I want them to pay a £10 deposit. And this first payment will always be the default option. So I'm going to put that in there, and I want the deposit to be paid by the 30th of January. And I click save. So that's your first deposit, so that's your deposit payment. Then I'm going to go into the next one. The first instalment I'm going to make is £30. I'm just going to get rid of that bit. And again, save it. And I'm going to do this with all the others, but the others are going to be £20, so that's instalment 3. Save that. Now I have to make sure, because what you see here is I've got my deposit needs to be due on the 30th of January. Instalment 2, you have to make sure that there is a payment paid by date on that. Otherwise the system won't recognise anything. Can't remember what year it is now. And again, we're going to do this. So we're going to say this is payable on the 12th of February. And then we're going to have instalment 4. And that's the 15th of February. And instalment 5 will be on the 20th. Once you've got all your instalments there, if you want to go and have a look and see what it looks like, if you preview it, you'll see that the parents can make a selection to pay the entire amount in one go, or they can make it in instalments. Now, because I've not put anything in the deposit box and I've made the deposit the first instalment, the payment system will always default to that first one there. So you can see that parents will always go in and the first payment they will make is £10. If I was to change that and I was to put the deposit of £10 in here, and save that, and then I change this one back to £20 as being the first instalment. And then I change that one back to be £20 as well. Sorry, we need to move that, that's 30, don't we? The reason we ask you to, we advise you not to put anything in the deposit, because if I now preview this, you'll see that although we've got the deposit payment there, the payment still has defaulted to instalment 1. Now, if the parents go in to make a payment on this trip and they don't notice that there's a radio button above for the £10 deposit and they make this first instalment, the next time they go in to try and make the deposit again, that deposit line has disappeared, because the deposit line will only be there when no payment has been made by the parent. So that's why we always suggest just ignore that, leave it as 0, and then you can just have your first instalment being the deposit. When we look at the payment for the trip, you can see that the parents can make the decision to either make a whole payment in one go, or they can go on to do the instalments. But what you can do is, by using these additional product options at the bottom, you can, if you want to make it available to the parents, they can actually make whatever payment they want. So they might want to make payments of £40 or two £50 payments. So if you click on this variable option button here, this gives you the option to allow the customer to enter a price. That creates a new line here. And what we need to do is we need to create another line under the instalments here where it says new option added, and we can edit that and we can put something in there that says please enter the amount you want to pay in the box below, or anything that you want it to say. We just save that. We don't put any price tag in there. We just save it. And then we go into this box here and we can edit this and we can put that please enter the amount you wish to pay. We want to make it visible to the parents and we want to save it. So now again, if you preview that, you can see that they can make the whole amount, they can make the instalments, or if they click on here to please complete the amount you want to pay, they can put anything they want in that box. And then it will give you the price at the bottom that they want to make the payment for. There's also other options that you can put onto your price on your trip on here. There are variable bits, various different types of things you can ask for. You can ask for a simple line so that parents can put in a mobile number or something like that. If you're asking for details of who's going to pick the child up after the end of the trip, you can add a text field. Again, pressing the edit button, you can type anything you want to say in there. Make it visible to the parents and save it. And they need to put that information of who's collecting him, or if the trip is coming back in staggered timings, you can say which one your child would like to come back on. In order to make sure that the parents fill in all the boxes that you want the information for, you can then add a compulsory completion form in here, which will add this area, and you can edit it and you can say something along the lines of, I confirm that I've completed all the boxes above. Again, make it visible to the parent, save it, and if you preview this, if you've asked for some information in these boxes here, if you don't tick that box there to say yes you agree, it's not going to let you go any further and you can't make the payment. So if you click on that, then you can purchase the trip. If you set up fixed with instalments or variable payments, you are always going to get these additional product options that come up on the screen that you can add as many as you want to the system. If you're setting up a payment that's just a fixed one-off payment, you won't get the option to add any products. So what we would suggest is that even if you're setting up a trip that's a zero cost payment, or it's just got a one-off like £2 or £3 and the parents would just make one payment, better to always set it up as a variable if it's just a one-off payment, because then you will get the additional product options that you can use. So again, like if you're issuing any information, or you want to get allergy information from parents, that sort of thing, you can use those boxes and then they can fill those in for you. When you finish setting up your trip, it always stays as unpublished until you actually go in and publish it. But what we do need to do is to make sure that we have got this trip being visible to the correct children. So I would normally come out of here then, and I can see that it will be set up, and at the moment it's available to everybody. The default is that the trips will be available to everybody, but if I want to set it up into something that only a particular year or class group can see, then I would click back into the edit button here, and at the top here, this is where the trip visibility is set. So at the moment, as you can see, it says can be viewed by everybody. If you want to put it into a selected group, you click on the radio button and the boxes will appear. Now at the moment, there's nothing highlighted in here because the trip is available to everybody. But if we want this trip to be available to years 2 and 3, you press the control button, click on 2, click on 3, save it, and then save your changes. And if you go back into the admin area here, you can see that the trip will now be for years 2 and 3 on here. If you click on something by mistake and you want to remove it, you can click back into the area of the trip, click on the can be viewed by, and if you click on this slide bar, you can see that those 2 lines are still highlighted. So if you want to remove year 2, you press the control key, click on year 2, and it will be unhighlighted. Again, you save the changes there and save the changes there. And if you just want to make sure that it's been set up correctly, then you can go back into the admin area, and then you'll see that the trip has now moved to year 3. So only year 3 children can see it. If you wanted to see the students that are in year 3 that can see this trip, if you go into the trip there, you can click on the view students, and this will give you the list of all students in year 3 that can actually see that product. Another type of people that you can get the trip to be seen by is you can set it by audience group. Now, what you could have to do is you'd have to go initially into your audience group creation area, which is on the dashboard here under quick links, the manage audience groups. You just click on audience group there, and we can add an audience group there, and we'll call it Hilary WisePay because that's the name of our trip, and add it. And what we want to do is we want to add a certain number of people to it. Now, if we want it to be just year 3, you can just set the year 3 from where we did before. But if you want to set a couple of people from year 3 and a couple of people from year 4, you can search for the children that you want to add. So if we're going to go into the year group here, I'm going to click on year 3 and then click on search. And this will give us all the children that are in year 3. Now, we can set them all to yes, but we can just pick random people. When you're selecting the people that you want to see the trip, then all you do is you select the radio button next to their name, scroll to the very bottom and save the group membership. And then again, if you want to set somebody, excuse me, in year 2, you do the same thing again, click on year 2, click on search. Here's your year 2 children, and click the ones that you want to do on that. So we just do that, and then we scroll again to the bottom. You have to remember to save the group membership, otherwise the children won't appear in the group. So in order to add this audience group back into our trip, you go back into the administration area, back to dashboard, back into your trips and visit, find your trip down here and edit. And what we can either do is we can either leave it with the year 3, but I've decided I don't want year 3 to see it anymore. But what I want to do is I want to add my Hilary WisePay. So I highlight that, save that, and save the changes. Go back to the administration area, and now you'll see that it's actually set under Hilary WisePay. And again, you can go into that and see which students you've got coming in through. Once students have made payments on the system, you can check the transactions that have come through by either clicking on the transaction button, or you can go through the income manager under the category and product. If you've asked for additional information, such as mobile numbers of parents, or if they've put the size of a t-shirt or a colour of a t-shirt they want, in here where you'll have all the transactions listed, if you click on see more detail, it will create another column called options, and there will be all of your different types of information that have been given by the parents. So when you're happy with the whole trip that you have set up, you can go back in and you can publish it. So we go into here again, edit the button. You can have a look on the preview if you're not sure whether it's right or wrong, but as soon as you're okay with it, and you can publish it now. And another check that you can do is you can actually go back into the dashboard, find the name of the child that has been associated with the trip, and you can just log in as them and make sure that they can see it. That's just an additional little check that you can do. The whole way through, when you're setting up a trip, you will find that there are little help buttons along the way on the edit button. So you've got help here and help there. The most important thing is this area, which is your payment area. Even if it's a zero cost payment for a trip, you must ensure that there is a cost logged onto the system, because otherwise, if there is no costings on there, again, the parents won't be able to see it. So that is your trips and visits. And one thing I did mention at the very beginning was that if you've got a lot of information that you want to add onto a trip, so instead of just adding a document, what we would add it onto here, we do have a module called Forms Manager. I don't have it on this demo site, unfortunately, so I can't show it to you, but it's Forms Manager is a separate module, and it enables the schools to set up forms that ask for any manner of information, names, addresses, telephone numbers, allergies, and that kind of thing. Just gives you a more comprehensive guide for what you want from the parents, and then that form can be attached into this trip. There is an area that you can go to see all your responses. You can download it into Excel, so you've got all your information of the trip in one place. So that might be something that you might like to think about. If you have a lot of information that you do need to extract from parents, then that would be a good module for you to have. What you can do is, if you're interested in having some more information about it or a demo on it, if you can contact Tim with his contact details that he gave earlier, that he'll be able to put you in touch with somebody who can put the integration in place for you, and then we can go from there. So that's pretty much trips and visits. Just generally to make sure that you know that if you set up as fixed, you can't change it to variable. If you set it as variable, you can't change it to fixed. Instalments are very important. Fixed with instalments is very important, particularly if you have only a restricted number of places available. So as long as you can keep all that in mind, then that will help you. So if you would like to know some more about Performance Manager, can I ask you to contact Tim Smith on the details that we gave you at the beginning of the slide, and he'll be able to give you some more information. We do have a demo that we can do for you, and we can give you the costings. I believe there is a cost for having the additional module, and they'll talk you through how to set up the forms, and they will be able to tell you how it works and how to get all the information on it. Okay. So that was trips and visits. So now we're going to go on to the Communications Hub. So the Communications Hub can be found on the main dashboard underneath the Quick Links area here. Not all schools have the full Communications Hub package, but every school will have the ability to have this tab. This will be enabled for everybody. And this is the tab that's mostly used in September when you've got your new students coming in, and the schools can provide the usernames and logins for all the new children. So you click on that tab and you get this information comes up. Again, you get a lot of information, help screens come up. But what it does allow you to do is you can actually issue usernames and passwords by year group, by tutor group. This is actually a class group rather than tutor group, or a distribution list. The distribution list is just the same as an audience group, but actually instead of going into the audience group area on the dashboard, you would create your distribution list from the Communications Hub. And again, this is available for people. So to create a distribution list, you just click onto that, and it's exactly the same as the audience group. You click on the little plus sign there to create the audience group that you want to set up. So if we have to say year 3, and then you add that, and again, you can search your children that you want to add and add them to the current membership so that you've got a distribution group called year 3. So when you have the information set up, you can then create anything. You can send emails out under a distribution list rather than sending it to a year group, student group, or audience group. So these usernames and password letters here, as I say, are very important in September. So you can select the year group you want to do it. In a secondary, it would be probably year 7s because they're mostly your new ones. Or if you've got the pre-admission system, you can actually, if you get a year group coming up for your pre-admissions, so this year pre-admissions would be 2022-23, because that goes from September to next year, then it can, you would have a year group here that would say 2022-23, so you would know that that would contain all of your new students. So you select your new group there, click on next, and here you can either download the letters into Microsoft Word and hand the letters to your new children. I know over the last couple of years, because of COVID, we haven't had the parents' presentation evenings for new parents, so you haven't been able to hand out the letters. Or you can download the usernames and password into Excel, and you can do a mail merge and send the username and passwords out to them there. So that is available to all schools, but most schools, if they have got the full package, all of this will be available for them to use. So if you click into the email section, you've got all your different reports that we can send by email. Some of them are pre-written. So if we want to send a dinner money balance less than a given value, usually used by secondary schools, it's a set format wording. And what it will do is it'll just insert the child's name and the child's balance from these WisePay history. We do have some messages that you can do a personalized message, so you can pretty much type whatever you want. And we have other messages that just it's just for reminders and you know, if you haven't paid for a payment and stuff like that. So with the set messages that I've already set up, you can actually change them to maybe if you wanted to add something to it or just add a little sentence to it. And what you would do is you would click on this button here. And again, you've got the same reports coming up, but you can actually tweak whatever the actual report says. So it will give you the information. This is what it says on this information. But if you wanted to add up a little bit more information, like you can mention what the trip is, or you could say the payment needs to be in by whatever date, you can add that onto there, save your changes, and then that would show up on the email that you're going to send to the people, to the parents. So again, with these messages that you can do, you can send it to a student, to a tutor group, to a year group, to an audience group, or a distribution list, however you want to send it. But if we send a message to a student, we can find the name of the student that we want to send it to. I'm going to send it to the first girl on the list, and I'm going to just click next. And then it will already pick up from the system the guardian's name, so the parent's name or carer's name there. It will also input that information there of the name of the child. And then I can type whatever message I want to type in here. And then I scroll down, and this is where I would find the information it's going to. Now, if you're sending it to more than one child, or if you're sending it to a year group or an audience group, you'll get a whole list of emails that come up here. If the email is in green, that's fine. You can you can send an email to them. If it's in yellow, it means that the parent hasn't been opted in to receive emails. And if it's in red, it means it's an invalid email address. So we need to check the input, make sure that there's not a comma instead of a full stop, or that it is actually a valid email address. If it all looks okay, it may be that the system doesn't like the email address if it's got 2 underscores in it. For example, I know the system doesn't like that. You might have to ask the parents for a different WisePay address. So all we do is we click on that email address there, and then we can preview what we're going to send out to the parent. And you'll see it says "Dear not given." That would say normally "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Smith," or Mrs. Smith, or whoever the first contact is. Says who the messages come from, who the child is, and what the actual text message says. Then you can confirm that that's okay to send, and then you can send the message. When you have these emails here, you can actually go into these history here to see what messages have been sent out. And you'll see that this morning I sent out a message to Sophie Aaron just saying test message, and it went at 11:33. What you can also do is to check whether a message has been sent rather than going through the whole history. If you go into the child's account on WisePay, Sophie, if you click on her profile here, this is all the details that you'll see for the contact details and everything. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the Communications Hub history there. So it'll give you the last 50 messages that are sent. And again, you can see that the one is there for the 26th of January, which we've just sent out. When I said earlier about when you see the email addresses, if they're green, it's fine. If they're red, it's invalid. If it's yellow, it means they haven't been opted in to receive emails. And this is the area here that drives that. So normally when a profile is set up, the default setting will always be no to text messages and no to email addresses. You can actually go in and blanket change instead of going into everybody's profile and changing everything. What you can do is if you go into the Communications Hub, which is just here, in the top left-hand corner, there's a button called Opt-in New Accounts. If you click on that and then click on Yes, Opt-in All New Accounts, that's all you have to do. And what it will do is it will change every single child's profile to saying yes to receiving text messages and email addresses, email from the school. If a parent comes in and says, I really don't want any more information coming from the school, I don't want to be told what's going on in the emails, you can always go back into the child's profile, because it would just probably be the odd 1 or 2. You can change that to no, and save the changes. And then next time when you try and send an email out, it'll be yellow again, so you won't be able to send it. Some schools also, with the communications hub, they do have the ability to send text messages. Not all schools have this, but where they choose to do it, they can actually purchase text bundles from WisePay, and then all we do is we would set them up and we would add them onto their account, and they can have as many as they want. There's a set, obviously the more you order, the cheaper it is, and then we can add it to the system so that they know that they can send text messages out to parents rather than having to send emails, because parents will usually pick up a mobile text easier than an email. So that's just something else that you can think about. We can send you out the costings for the text bundles, and we can get that set up for you if that's something that you would like to do. If you would like to be able to send text messages, if you send an email into support, we can always send you the text bundles, and all we ask for you to do is provide us with a purchase order for the amount of text credits that you want to buy, and then we can add them to the system, and then you can go off. And it's exactly the same format as the emails. You've got all your different reports here. You can send them to who you want and just add your text message as and when you want to. When you're sending emails out via the communications hub, you can't actually attach a document to the email. So what you would need to do is you would need to add a link into the email text, so that it then directs the school to, say, your school website or another website where you would have the information set for. So in order to set the link, what you would do is you would do the, just go on here, I'll demonstrate for you. It does say on here how to do it. So if you want to create a link here, you can put the square bracket and a square bracket, then put in the full web address, the HTTPS and the forward slashes, and then you close it with the bracket, a forward slash and a, and then another close bracket. If you want anything to stand out, again, you do the B for bold, then you put your text in that you want to make bold, and then do your brackets at the end. And if you want to underline anything, it's you. It's all there, and it's all very simple to use. When you are doing an email to the schools, the system does not like apostrophes within the text. Apostrophe in computer speak means it's the end of the data. So if you can avoid using the apostrophes, or use the fake apostrophes that some keyboards do have on their system, and that will be acceptable, and then you can send the email out to them. I think that's all the information I have for you on the communications hub. So if anybody has any questions, or if they would like to take up the SMS text system, by all means, please contact us and we can get that sorted out for you. Thank you for listening to me today. What we'll do, I'll leave the line open for a little bit so that we can do some questions. As I said, we will come back to you with all the questions that have been raised. I think some are being answered as we've been sitting on the system during the webinar for you, but we will get the questions answered for you, and the webinar has been recorded. So I'll just leave it for a couple more minutes. Unless, Tim, is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, I don't think so, Hilary. Thank you very much for doing that. Yeah, I can see there's some questions that have come through, so we'll make sure that we get those responded to quickly. We'll also, I'll send out an email to everybody who's been on the session this morning. We'll obviously share the recording, we'll share the questions and answers, and so I'll drop an email so everybody's got my contact details. And if anybody wants any more information regarding the forms module, or any information around Communication Hub, then please let me know. One of the things I did mention in the chat and the question sort of function is, again, please respond within the email or now if you can. But we plan to do a number of these webinars, go through different sort of modules to give you extra sort of training and information about the modules. So if you've got any particular modules, topics you'd like us to cover in future webinar sessions, then again, please do let us know. But thank you, Hilary. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I think we'll close the session now. But as I say, we'll share the recording, we'll share the information, and it's really good that you gave up your time this morning to join the session. We do appreciate that, and I hope you found it very useful. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.